So yeah, climate change is affecting us all and everywhere, and I would say every year more so. If we see recently the floodings in Spain, early of the year, in April in the UAE were the worst floods in 75 years. It is something that affects us all as landscape architects, and planners and designers. We do have a unique set of instruments, but also a duty to try to affect change through climate adaptation. And I've got four amazing panelists here that can have a conversation about that. So I think I'll ask each of you a question first, and then it would be great if we can go back and forth and maybe respond to each other. So I'd like to start with Giuseppe. I would say big steps have been taken in the last decade, and I would say especially in the last 5 years in the region, but also in Saudi Arabia, to improve the climate, the public realm, and even the weather itself. From your experience in the region, from your expertise, could you maybe provide an area or a subject that you feel deserves more of a push or more attention in the coming year to come and towards our Vision 2030?
Hello, everybody. Yes. To answer your question, I think that we should actually focus on three main targets. That's based also on my experience. For very long, I worked with Southeast Asia, for example, based in Singapore, and I believe that one of the most prominent elements in order to fight this climate change and to sustain, to support sustainability is a political action. Okay, I think in Saudi Arabia in the last years, in the last decades, has been done a lot, and what we're doing here is great. We can see a lot of political willing to really change things, but I still think that there is a lot of room for improvements. And in order to improve, we should always compare ourselves with other situations. So from my experience, for example, what I've seen in Singapore, which is a place where I have been for almost 15 years working there, is that they have built up a very efficient political system in order to really sustain and support, okay, the sustainability and the fight the climate change. Okay, so because I believe as designers we can do a lot, but we always need to be supported by political action. So I think that's something that need to keep going, and we need to have long-term plans. And I believe from this point of view, as I said, Saudi Arabia is doing great, but I still think that there's a lot of room for growth. And also the other important thing is that nobody can address this kind of problems alone. It need to be done together. So it's something that it need to involve everyone. The second point, I think, is something that is going probably in an opposite direction from what I heard until now during different panels and discussion is, I really think that yes, looking to the future and try to find new technologies, of course, it's very important. But I believe that we should look into the past, because I think that we have a lot of opportunities there to learn from previous civilizations. Like, for example, we are in the Arabic Peninsula, and one of the most interesting civilization is the Nabateans. Okay, these civilizations was basically one of the most advanced in managing water, and we lost most of this know-how, which I think would be very important to study, try to understand how they developed such very advanced solutions, especially for the management of the water. There are other examples, like for example in North Africa, the Forever system, which also is offering a very great example of how going back and studying all this vernacular design can really provide us new ideas and new different way to approach sustainability. So I think that we should go also in that direction. That's a very important point. And this means also that us as designers, we should also open to collaboration with other professions, but for example, archaeologists, which they could really support us in taking back this knowledge that's been lost. And the last, which actually is not the least, I think education. We need to really, which is not just educate the new generation, but educate any participant, any party which is working with us in try to change the mindset. Yes, and this means that we should focus not only on, for example, a new generation, but for example, also clients or developers, contractors, everybody. So this, I think, are the three main.
So political will and support, education, and lessons learned from the past.
Correct.
Thank you. Asli, I would like to ask you, because you've also spent a portion of your career in Asia, if you could draw some comparisons or maybe contradictions between Asia and here, talking about that mindset and the political will, and maybe from your experience, you compare it to Middle East, some advice forward.
Yeah.
For climate adaptation, what we can do.
Thank you very much. First of all, compare it's completely different climate and different atmosphere from Asia to the Middle East, I would like to say. From my experience, from the Southeast Asia to the Middle East area, the climate is completely different. The soil is different, the air quality, everything is different. So I would like to say for the climate change, I think it all starts with the policymakers and then infrastructure engineers. And I think most importantly, it should start with the scientists or scholars to consult first and then take the future and take the shape it further. So being in Asia, you don't really have much affection, I think, affection there. Because I believe that in my projects that we have worked on, we didn't go against the nature there. We follow the lines, we follow the guidelines. My opinion, and the Middle East, I'm afraid it's not having it like that. Well,
So we need to build further on nature rather than against it.
working on with the scholars first.
Yes.
And then the owners of the lands, what they want to know and whether it's doable or not. I think that's the first needs to be discussed.
Scientifically.
Yes,
Right. Okay, and then Carlos, from a technical point of view, with your experience here in Riyadh and on programs such as Green Riyadh, what would you say maybe is something that you see positively that's already happening, or alternatively, what you would drive further in terms of the technical tools that we have to our disposal to attack climate adaptation?
Well, Marlon, thank you. Technically, the thing I will explain more related to my background, my life. Coming to Saudi Arabia 5 years ago, from Spain, with all that knowledge of the past, which I agree coming from Al, and finding a city so dry, so based in the vehicles, so based in the asphalt. But soon moving around for this project in the other roads, like a big challenge being overwhelmed, but moving around outside Riyadh, finding this miracle. No, that is the wadis. Finding the wadis in which, in the middle of the desert, I found the greenery just by a geological condition, like nature engineered in the city. And then discovering that is possible.
And what is missing here is the water. What is the water is there? What is the conditions of the water to be able to grow, as water means life, life means green. And all these ecosystems are coming from water, so we need the water. I was impressed to see that besides the project of Riyadh, there is in parallel the project of the sewage water treatment to provide water to Riyadh, to all the planted areas. That is ongoing in parallel with the same organization directly. So that is the challenge, because the water is necessary. But the water understanding Al-Andalus, for example, we go to Granada and we see La Alhambra. We discovered that in La Alhambra originally there was not water there. Only after Islam came to Spain and they started to make the channel to connect from the moon, and 7 kilometers away, we are talking about fountain center, with no pubs, with no vehicles, with not all the technology that we have now, and being able to bring the water to this space and creating a paradise, which is the idea of the garden, of the first garden, a paradise that is Lara. They give me the energy to bet in that this is possible. And now we can see the results. My first project was in the roads, as you see, Elbow Road, Inhale Road, all those interchanges, and how different is now Riyadh of the Riyadh when I arrived 4 years ago. The management of water, the technology of water, with all the tools that we have for making a smart and ecological approach to the use, reuse, infiltration, all the technology based upon the use of the water, because finally without water there will not be green, there will not be life. And this is the most important technology that I think we have to use.
And I think we do have some, Giuseppe also was mentioning learning from the past. I think what you're talking about, comparisons are with the falaj, right? These agricultural channels that we have, cool air, and the wind tower. So there are very old methodologies within Arabic urban planning and architecture and landscape that we could apply. I think that's a passionate subject for Ulrich as well. Portugal has been in the region for a very long time. Big projects that Wadi Hanifa and other projects very much at the heart of changing the public realm. I think one topic that we always have on the table is to try to stretch the seasons as long as possible, right? We have on average a good 8 months. How can we make it 9? How can we stretch the season basically? And so from your perspective and from your experience, could you maybe speak to that in terms of solutions or opinions that you have, and maybe define the fact that Saudi is so big, a solution in Riyadh may not work for Jeddah or for Dammam?
Okay, one thing Riyadh is very well off, because thermal comfort, we all speaking about thermal comfort, extended seasons is one point, and that's directly tied to humidity. So 40, and I know Jeddah, I was there a couple of times, 45 degrees in Jeddah just kills you, at least me. 45 degrees in Riyadh, that's bearable. So that is one point. And what you said before about learning from the past, learning from history, there is one statement from a Morgan traveler who, I believe, visited Riyadh in the 15th century, and he described Riyadh as the city of green streets. And that notion was defining for the whole character and identity of Riyadh. And if we getting back to that someone can say Riyadh is the city of green streams, that would be so powerful. So we need to see that parks, wadis, influence the climate positively in terms of lowering the temperature beyond the physical barriers. There was a lot said about shade and shade and shade, and more shade is better than shade. But what is not talked about is, I think, where we can get more shade and where we can squeeze out more thermal comfort, and that is by looking at our roads in Riyadh. And roads in Riyadh, they're incredible wide. It has nothing to do with international standards. Residential road lane width is 3.5 meters usually. We're driving on the German Autobahn on these roads like 250 kilometers plus. So, and what Dr. Jalal is unfortunately not here anymore, but what she said is, if we want to get our citizens shaped that they're more livable, we need to talk to all disciplines. And I see, and I think that's the biggest chance is to get that climate better and get the temperature down, is looking at the potential of roads they have. And we see roads, and we did a couple of roads, here see them more than as linear parks, as public realm. The next thing that needs to happen is to look at materials we use, because different materials have different properties. So everybody knows albedo, how much heat is radiated off, how dense is a material, how much heat can it store. And we in Germany heat whole houses with that principle, storing energy. That needs to end. And that would be the biggest push in extending the seasons. Both building materials for houses, vertical facades, what can we do with them? And get away from that, the heat storage of the whole city. Because you see, for example, when you went from Riyadh to Diriyah, you felt the temperature drop at about 2 to 3 degrees, and that made a huge difference. If you can get that in Riyadh, and that is possible, then that would be fantastic. But we need to talk to urban designers, we need to talk to people who design roads, and we need to look into material properties. And there was a research in Australia where they said use of the right materials for paving is more important than shade and breed.
And then, but I think you're saying there is still hope, because we do have a wide profile. In cities where the urban fabric is really locked down, it's going to be a harder task. So if we do sacrifice some of the lanes and increase the public domain, there is still hope to convert it reading from 350 to 270.
Yeah, and then you multiply that with lanes. I'm not that good with maths, that's miles, but that gives you a couple of meters, and a couple of meters matter.
Yes.
That really matters.
Yes. Carlos, you've worked on the road package. Any response to that, or any experience on that?
Sure. I agree that it's not only about increasing the amount of green for square meters of green for inhabitant or the number of trees for inhabitant, it's also creating corridors. The green corridors connecting green areas is the key to mitigate the heat. It's a study that the green corridors connected with the use of water, not as a commodity, but a water that is shown in water features, open channels, that is later used for irrigation. All this knowledge coming from Al-Andalus, come from other cultures in the Mediterranean, is so important, and Riyadh, I think, is getting steps very quickly in that regard, from almost zero. Not zero, of course, because we have the Q, we have Wadi Khalifa, we have incredible examples that somehow isolated in the city. A city in which the urbanism is based upon the car views, is not based on the human stepping around. And this is what it should change. Having green corridors that they are also benefit the life of the pedestrian, cycling. And another initiative that also I don't miss is working in is a sports boulevard. The sports boulevard is going to be a good idea, connected in very interesting points of the city as Wadi Hanifa with Thumama Desert in this green corridor that is going to be used for sports, and at the same time it's going to collect the young, and with this water man is exposed, and this greenery for sure is going to be an area that is going to be much more pleasant, collective, and enlarge the time that we can enjoy the city outdoors. And I'm gonna tell you something. When I moved to Riyadh, I thought you will be, you will be terrible all year. But now I have to tell many people that are coming that have an amazing winter. When in Europe we have to be at home, locked at home because it's freezing. Here we are enjoying the city. We will enjoy this. So we are enjoying the outdoors, and so we can enjoy these outdoor areas. So I bet that soon we will make a city that it will be at least the same time of enjoyment outdoors as, for example, in Spain, which is really good balance. So yeah, I think I am very optimistic and also appreciating about the opportunity to working in Riyadh. It's very challenging, and especially because the things are happening very quickly. So yes, this I think is going to mitigate and make life of our people, because I'm resident here and I feel totally involved. And the future of the habitats is going to be really exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think when transforming the fabric, the metro system is going to play a big role as well, because we can't have green corridors, green and blue corridors like at Sports Boulevard throughout in one go. These things takes time, but when we have transport-oriented developments around the nose, at least we can get easier through the city to our destinations.
One thing I want to add to that is very often we see like 7.5 million increasing green areas, and that these are numbers, but it's interesting what's truly behind these numbers. And when we say traffic, I've lived long enough in Riyadh to know that you drive from your house to a destination where you think you want to be, where the restaurants like that. What Green Riyadh does is reinforcing the neighborhoods. What they also do is increasing the green area per capita. Basically, what that creates is green spaces and a livable environment right at your doorstep. That will have a huge influence on traffic loads, a huge influence, and nobody seems to see that. But that is an absolute game changer, and that will bring the traffic down, and will be for the benefit of the whole city.
100% agree. I've been flagged that I have 4 minutes left, so I'm going to give one more chance maybe to Giuseppe if you want to weigh in further on the...
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about the traffic, and again, just to stress out, the third point I was talking about the education is that, we do a lot to change our cities, the way how we live in cities, but I think sometimes we forget that there is people in the cities, and you can't dictate how to use the space or to move around. So you can create all the infrastructure you want, the most sophisticated, but at the end of the day, it's still about education, because you have to also change the mentality of the people to how to use the certain things. So again, we can provide all the technology we want, but the problems are always going back to the basic, which is that it takes time to for people to adapt to new way to live. And this, I believe that again, education is
One thing to say to that, if you look at the tradition of the Saudi Arabian garden, that's a little bit big for now. If you look at the tradition of the Saudi Arabian garden, it was entirely human-centric, and it was targeted to create multiple opportunities. And I think, and you've seen that in our designs, you create an opportunity, you don't even know for what that opportunity is, but people will find out. And this is another joy in landscaping design. I'm a very practical guy in the approach. You can explain everything with science, but it boils down to how people perceive that, what opportunities you create, and how people live and feel in a city. And I think as a good landscape architect, you design opportunities and feelings rather than physical objects.
But it comes with the experience.
Comes with experience.
Yeah. Well, the visual experience. I mean, you need to live here you need to know the society and the habits, and you need to live here, right? I mean, so it comes with the experience, actually, you're saying.
Well, this was a wonderful discussion. I think we all agree we need to learn lessons from the past. We need to apply our experience. And indeed, as landscape architects, I think we need to lead by example. I think we will win the hearts and minds of both politicians and the people that use it. I don't know if Stephen, do I have still time for one question from the audience?
Just going to say, I trust you got
Okay, I think then I would like to thank our panel very much for this conversation today and this debate. And I'll give it over back to Steve.
Sorry.
I'll give it over to you, Steve.
Thank you very much. Please give her a hand. Again, it's another topic that we could spend hours on, and I really